I'll never forget the look on my mom's face when I told her, "We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house." Her lips trembled, her coffee cup froze halfway to her mouth, and her eyes went glassy, like she couldn't even process what I'd just said. I thought she'd yell or cry or throw something at me, but she just whispered, "You... what?" The silence that followed was so thick it felt like I was drowning in it. I knew I was breaking her heart, but I also knew I didn't have a choice. Or at least, that's what I told myself. But what she didn't know was that this wasn't just about money, or about getting rid of an old property. This was about something much deeper. Something she'd hidden from me for years. Something that started with a lie buried under the sand behind that very beach house. So, tell me, was I wrong for what I did? Or would you have done the same if you were in my shoes? It all started about 6 months before that awful day. My mom, Linda, had this little beach house on the coast, a simple one-story wooden place, with peeling paint and a porch that always smelled like sea salt and sunscreen. She bought it with my dad back in the early 90s before he passed away. It was their dream home, the kind of place they always said they'd retire in. But after Dad died, Mom barely went there anymore. For years, it just sat empty, quiet, fading, but full of memories. And for me, that house was a mix of comfort and pain. Every time I walked through those doors, I could almost hear my dad's laughter echoing down the hallway, smell the barbecue he used to make on summer nights. But then reality would hit. He was gone, and that house was just a ghost of the past. Around that time, I was going through one of the toughest years of my life. My wife, Emma, had lost her job. I'd been laid off from mine after my company downsized. We were behind on rent, bills were piling up, and our daughter, Lily, had just been diagnosed with a medical condition that needed expensive treatment. It felt like the world was collapsing around me. I was desperate, scared, and ashamed. I didn't want to go to my mom for help because she had her own problems. She lived off her small pension and Social Security checks. But then one day, while we were visiting her, I noticed a letter on her kitchen counter from the county property office. It was about the beach house. Apparently, she was behind on taxes, 3 years behind. I asked her about it, and she brushed it off like it was nothing. "It's just a mistake," she said. But I could see the truth in her eyes. She couldn't afford it anymore. That's when the idea first crept into my mind. Sell the beach house, pay off her debts, clear the taxes, and maybe, just maybe, use the rest to save my family. I convinced myself it would be for her own good, that it was the responsible thing to do. So I brought it up gently one night over dinner. "Mom, what if we sold the beach house?" I asked. The moment the words left my mouth, her fork froze midair. She didn't look at me for a few seconds. Then she said in the calmest but coldest voice I'd ever heard, "That house isn't going anywhere, Mark. It's staying in this family." I tried to reason with her, explaining how expensive it was to maintain, how it was just sitting there rotting away. But she didn't budge. "That house is more than wood and nails," she said. "It's your father's memory. It's mine." I dropped it, for the moment. But the more I thought about it, the more obsessed I became. Every time I looked at my daughter struggling with her treatments, every time I saw another overdue notice in the mail, I thought of that empty house by the beach. I even drove there one night just to look at it. The door creaked open, the smell of salt and dust hit me, and I felt this strange mix of guilt and determination. I walked through every room, remembering old summers, Dad teaching me how to fish, Mom humming while painting the kitchen walls. I stood in the living room and said out loud, "I'm sorry, Dad, but I need to do this." So, without telling Mom, I started looking for buyers. A realtor named Paul seemed interested. He said the market was hot and he could get a great price, enough to clear all debts and then some. I told him my mother had given me permission, even forged her signature on a few preliminary forms. I hated myself for it, but I was convinced it was for the greater good. The deal moved fast, too fast. Within weeks, Paul had found a buyer, a developer who wanted to tear it down and build luxury condos. The contract was almost finalized when I got a call from my mom. Her voice was shaking. "Mark," she said, "why did I just get a call from a realtor asking for my signature?" My heart stopped. I tried to play dumb, said there must have been a mistake. But she wasn't buying it. "What did you do?" she demanded. That's when everything started to unravel. I confessed everything. The forged forms, the buyer, the deal. She didn't yell. She didn't even cry. She just stared at me through the phone for a long silence and said, "You have no idea what you've done." Then she hung up. I thought she was just being dramatic, but 2 days later she called back and said, "Fine, if you want to sell it so badly, go ahead, but I'm coming with you. We'll go there tomorrow." That was when I said it, the line that would haunt me. "We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house." When we arrived, she was quiet the whole drive. No music, no small talk, just the sound of waves getting closer. The house looked the same as always, except older, lonelier. She walked inside like she was entering a church. I followed behind her, feeling like a criminal. She touched the walls, the picture frames, the old sofa. "You think you know everything about this place," she said softly, "but you don't." I didn't understand what she meant until later that night. We decided to stay one last night before the sale went through. She cooked dinner, but neither of us ate much. Around midnight, I woke up to a noise, the sound of something being dragged across the floor. I got up and saw her at the back door, holding a flashlight. "Mom?" I asked. She turned to me, her face pale, her eyes red. "Come with me," she said. We walked out to the backyard, where the sand met the grass. She led me behind the old tool shed. The moonlight hit the ground where the sand looked disturbed, like it had been dug up and filled again. "What is this?" I asked. She didn't answer. She knelt down and brushed the sand away with her hands, revealing something metallic, a small rusted tin box. She opened it and inside were old photos, letters, and a stack of cash. Not much, but enough to surprise me. "What is this, Mom?" I repeated. She handed me one of the photos. It was of her, my dad, and another man I didn't recognize. He was standing next to them in front of the beach house, smiling. On the back of the photo, there was a date and a note that read, "Our last summer together." My mom sat back, staring at the photo. "That man," she said, "was your father's best friend. His name was Alan." She swallowed hard. "He helped your dad build this house. But what you don't know, Mark, is that I was in love with him before I ever met your father." My jaw dropped. "What?" She nodded slowly. "I chose your dad, and I thought that was the end of it. But years later, after you were born, Alan came back. He was in trouble, owed people money. Your father didn't know, but I gave him some from our savings. He promised to pay it back." Her voice broke. "A week later, they found him dead. He drowned right out there in the ocean." I didn't know what to say. She continued. "The police said it was an accident, but your father never believed that. He thought someone pushed him. He started drinking, became paranoid. One night he came out here, dug that hole, and buried that box. He said it was the truth, proof of what really happened. But when I opened it, I couldn't find anything that proved murder. Just letters from Alan, begging for forgiveness, and money he'd returned before he died. I wanted to tell your father, but he was too far gone by then. He died thinking me, was hiding something." Tears streamed down her face. "That's why I could never sell this house, Mark. It's the only place where the truth about him, about us, still lives." I stood there, speechless. The guilt hit me like a wave. I'd been so focused on money, on survival, that I'd forgotten that some things were worth more than any price. My mom looked at me and said, "You sold not just a house, Mark. You sold my memories, my regrets, my forgiveness." I didn't know what to do. I wanted to cancel the sale, but it was too late. The buyer had already wired the deposit. Mom didn't say another word. She just went inside and locked herself in the guest room. I spent the rest of the night staring at that box, wondering what kind of man my father really was, and what kind of son I'd become. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below. What would you have done if you were me? Would you have gone through with the sale, or would you have tried to make it right, even if it meant losing everything? The I. Next morning, I woke up to the sound of waves crashing hard against the shore. The air smelled like rain. I walked to my mom's room, but she wasn't there. The bed was made. Her suitcase was gone. I panicked, ran outside, and saw her standing by the water, still in her nightgown, holding the tin box. "Mom!" I shouted, running toward her. She turned and said, "It's okay, Mark. I'm just saying goodbye." Then she walked into the surf up to her knees, opened the box, and let everything inside scatter into the water. The photos, the letters, the money. The tide carried them away, one by one. She turned back, tears mixing with the rain. "It's yours now," she said. "Do whatever you need to do." That day, the buyer came to finalize the paperwork. I met him at the porch, my hands shaking. He was polite, even cheerful, talking about how the condos would bring new life to the area. But all I could think about was my father's laughter echoing through those walls, my mother's face when I told her I'd sold it. When he handed me the final documents to sign, I couldn't do it. I looked at the dotted line, at the check waiting to change our lives, and then at my mom standing silently in the doorway. I pushed the papers back. "The sale's off," I said. The man frowned. "You can't back out now. We have a contract. I didn't care." I tore the check in half and said, "You sue me if you have to." Then I turned and walked away. It wasn't easy after that. We lost our apartment a few months later. Things got tough, really tough. But slowly things started to change. Emma found a new job and I started freelancing again. My mom, surprisingly, moved back into the beach house full-time. She fixed it up, repainted the walls, planted flowers in the front yard. Sometimes I'd visit her, and we'd sit on the porch watching the sunset, not saying much. One evening she turned to me and said, "You did the right thing, you know." I asked her if she ever regretted not selling. She smiled. "I regret a lot of things in life, Mark, but keeping this house isn't one of them." A year later, when she passed away peacefully in her sleep, I found a letter addressed to me on her nightstand. It said, "My dear son, I know you did what you did out of love, even if it hurt. This house belongs to you now. But remember, it's not the walls that hold the memories, it's the people. So wherever you go, take us with you." I cried for hours reading that. And when I finally went back to the beach house, I didn't see an old building anymore. I saw a story, a history, a legacy. I decided not to sell it ever again. Instead, I turned it into a small family retreat. Every summer, Emma, Lily, and I go there. Lily loves collecting seashells by the shore, just like I used to. And every time the waves crash against the sand, I swear I can still hear my mom's voice whispering, "It's yours now." So, was I wrong for trying to sell the beach house? Maybe I was. Or maybe I was just a desperate man trying to save his family, blinded by the weight of responsibility. But if there's one thing I learned, it's that sometimes the things we think we need to let go of are the very things that hold us together. If you were on my side, hit that like button. If you think I should have done something different, tell me what in the comments below. I really want to hear your take on it. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more just like it. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.